They call us here, they call us there. So we didn't concentrate on this. However, I have here, I think, so they wrote us very good kind of critique from this guy, from the publisher. I will show you later. It's fantastic because you can probably use it. I have one copy for you, so you can use it, you know, if you write something about it.
Yes, sir.
You know. So according to them, it's great, you know,
Yeah.
the publishers. But I didn't check any finances or nothing like this. I don't know yet. But, you know, it's relatively...
You didn't do this for publishing purposes. You did this for education.
That's true, you know. Why, you know, why not,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially after you already had written most of your memoirs, around 47, right?
Yeah, 40, yeah,
47.
46, 47. 46 actually, I started, you know. And then something like about more than half I wrote there, and then I wrote each time a little more. So, you know, altogether I wrote during longer time, but actually the emphasis on this book was from 1946, 46, 47. Probably at least half of the book I wrote.
So most of this stuff, did you just store away for 50 years?
Yeah. It was written in Polish.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Is there a Polish version?
Pardon me?
Is there a Polish version of this book?
Polish version is in Poland.
Okay.
You know, but the one that translated this, Katarzyna Jerzak, she was professor here. She was professor here, and she told me that she likes to translate it, and she translated this, and now she's back in Poland, you know. So she told me just about a couple of weeks ago that it must be published in Polish, in Poland. It must be published in Poland. So that's how it is.
I mean, you could publish this in German, Russian,
I can
Polish?
I can publish
all
whatever,
these
but I
things.
don't have the translations. But Polish I have, because that's what I wrote actually in Polish. And she translated this, you know, because she translated in literary language. It's kind of an.
This was your publisher that translated it?
The
She was an associate professor in comparative literature here,
Okay.
and then she left a few years.
The most important part of translation was my wife, because she corrected whatever was translated in English. She corrected the
You
English.
speak Polish as well?
No,
Oh.
no.
I do speak English.
Oh, okay, I got you,
Yeah.
I got
You're
you.
really supposed to go from your into your native language, not into the second language. So
It's written here, you know, by the way, on the second page, I think. Here, you see, it's
Oh,
written.
okay. All the copyright
Yeah.
information and
Yeah.
stuff.
that's the translation.
It's,
And me.
Did you go up to Indiana at all?
yeah, but I have not in physically, but I tell you something what is here very unique. You see this guy here, Martin Gill, I tell you what, this is here, yeah. Look how nice, this first few lines, how he put together this.
Yeah, I read this.
No,
Is this
he
guy
was,
very-
you know, he was very well known in England, basically, because he wrote the book about Churchill, and he got, because of this, he got the Sir Martin Gilbert. You know, in England, they give you some names like this after they do something for the country or whatever. So he was very, very famous because of this Churchill book. So I think it was in couple volume, you know, what was, and I'm still in touch with his wife, but he passed away, you know.
Oh, okay.
And he was very good relations with me. He just likes me, you know. And what happened, I have seen him one time on TV, and he talked to the students, and I figured out he's kind of interesting guy. I'm going to be in touch with him. I wrote him a beautiful letter, and passed not less, no more, but 4 years. I'm not kidding. After 4 years, he answered.
Wow.
And he said, look, now I have chance to read your letter. I just love it.
After 4 years.
Yeah.
Had you in anticipation
So you
for a
know
while.
what happened now? She started to say, he offered himself. He's going to make maps for the. I didn't pay a cent, you know. He make 5 maps, and forward, you know.
Mhm.
You know, this guy like this is offering me this. I was so proud of it, you know.
That's very cool.
Because I even didn't ask him this, but he said it was so good, you know, that it calls for my forward and maps, you know.
Mhm.
And he did it. This is his forward, and this is 5 maps. The only one map is this one here that I make. It's here also in the book,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But for me, it is a privilege that he wrote something like this, because he is really something else, you know.
Mhm.
He was.
When did he pass away?
Not so long ago. He passed away about, what, 5 months ago or something? Something like this, yes. But I'm in touch with his wife all the time, you know. We're calling each time and talking nicely, etc. His wife is still living there, you know. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And now, when we're going throughout the interview, if you ever want to make reference to one of the posters, just let me know, and I'll snag it for you. It's not going to cause any problems, you bringing it up or anything like that. So just let me know if you need to use one of those posters.
Well, you do whatever you like. You don't have any restriction to this to use it. Go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
If you want to use it, tell
Oh, if I am
Yeah.
using, oh,
Yeah, and I can like hold it up. And
oh,
you
I
can,
see what
like,
you mean.
point
Oh,
and
okay,
stuff like that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay, okay, okay.
I'm not sure what the old holdup is. Are we good? Okay. Yeah, I think we're.
When you guys are done with all that stuff, is it still going to be here so I can take a picture of it?
Allison has a picture of a lot of photographs, so talk to Allison. This is Michaela, by the way.
Hi.
Hi.
This is
Hi.
George
Nice
and
to meet you.
Marlene.
Nice to see.
Hi, I'm social media producer today.
Yeah, so she's handling the Instagram and the Twitter and the Facebook and all that.
Oh,
You got a Twitter?
Well, we have Twitter and Facebook. You can look it up us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Feel free to follow us. We're
Yeah.
going to be posting about you guys all day.
Yeah.
So she's taking the pictures and stuff, getting
Well,
ready
I'll
to
let you guys get back to it, but thank you.
Cool.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, I think we're good to go. So I'm just gonna kind of introduce you, and then
Sure,
we'll
sure.
we'll
You
start
can-
on off. I know we've been chatting for a little while now, but
If you forget something, I will remind you.
No, I'm not here, so don't look over.
if you need to chime in, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarify.
All right, I'm joined here with Mr. George Denin. He was born in 1925 in Lutz, Poland, and let me restart that so I'm not fumbling with my words. I'm joined here with Mr. George Denin. He was born in 1925 in Lutz, Poland, and he is so gracious to join me here today. He lived throughout World War II, throughout the Holocaust, and is here to tell us all about his journeys and his adventures and his travels and everything in between. So thank you very much for joining me today.
You're
Really
very
do
welcome.
appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Yes,
Very
sir.
welcome. Yeah.
So I want to start off with your early childhood. I want to talk about growing up. I know it was a big Jewish community in Lutz.
In Watch, yes.
Yeah, yes. Can you tell me a little bit about how your schooling was, your elementary school years, and your friends and things like that?
Yes, I tell you this difference between my family and other families is that we have been not exactly so much in Jewish education. I went to Polish school, and this was one of the pluses for surviving the war, because my language, Polish language, was perfect. And so are many other things that I was not very typical part of Jewish environment, you know. The one thing what was for me very dear was always the country that was then was not Israel yet, but we have been dreaming about this country of Israel, and this was something that binded me to rest of the Jewish people.
Okay. And then you were about 14, 15 years old when things started to change, I guess. First of all, did you notice Hitler's rise in power? Did you know from the get-go that this was going to be a bad thing? How popular was Hitler in Poland?
Definitely, I was very much aware about this Hitler, you know. I think I mentioned to you before that as a kid I was making fun from Hitler, because this was the only thing that I could fight him with, making joking on me. So we had a car with open roof. As a matter of fact, it was German car. It was Mercedes-Benz. And I was pretending to be Hitler, riding through the areas on Lodz where basically had been mostly German population, German minority living, And they couldn't believe it probably what was this. The one small guy staying on top of the inside the car and his head sticking, from this roof, and pretending to be Hitler, So I was very much aware about Hitler.
Did you ever get in any trouble going around town?
No. At that time, no. It was before the German occupation, So was not trouble.
And what about the people in Poland? Did they agree with his politics? Or the German areas, were they supportive of his rise?
Oh, the German areas, of course, yeah. They have been very much nationalistic, and same thing like in Germany. From beginning in Germany, they may be nationalistic, but they be not pro-Hitler. But somehow he influenced by propaganda the German population to be nationalistic plus, Nazistic. So in Poland, no, absolutely not. I didn't. We didn't see any nationalism, German nationalism per se. We haven't seen it, until the Germans come to Poland.
Mm-hmm. So you had no indication that this man was intending to create genocide or have a hate towards Jewish people or gypsies or homosexuals or all these different types of people. There was no indication on his rise that he was.
Well, we know about that he hated people, the ones that you mentioned, but nobody was dreaming that he's going to kill them. Maybe persecute them, but not kill them. No, that was not in my mind. No.
Mm-hmm. And then starting into the war, or starting into the air raids, and you've been at this house all your life. Nothing crazy like this has happened, and then all of a sudden you see German planes flying above, and you see these crashes and bombs and all this stuff. What is that like?
This was difficult to explain. This was unbelievable. This was terror. I mean, whenever I've seen something like this, personally, I have never seen at that time movies from World War II and from World War I, because World War II. I have never seen something like this. And can you figure? And it was so unexpected. The first bomb, actually, maybe the first bomb of this war, could be, I don't know, but for sure, first bomb in this conflict with Poland fall on city of Lodz and fall exactly on the other side of our home. It was so unbelievable. And the results have been, for me, it was end of the war. Apparently it was not too bad in relations to other things, but for me it was just terrible because the windows have been started to blow, the glass had been blown from the windows, and there was a mess and dust, all over. There was terrible noise. And it was the first bomb that fell on city of Lodz. And I was there, I was there. So I was together with my parents in the basement, and so had been all of these people from the same building. They went to the basement before, because we had been asked to do so before this air raid, But we didn't expect that there would be actually bomb drop on us, but it was first time. It was only one time on city of Lodz that had been bombed. The city of Lodz came completely clean, except this buildings that was destroyed by the first bomb.
And also you made mention in your book that there was toys and candy and through these bacteria test tubes dropped. What exactly was that?
There was nothing like this drop, but somehow I have no idea who gave the idea about it, and they started they started to talk on radio. No, it was not TV at that time. That the enemy pilots dropping, that's what you mentioned, some kind of bacteria, some toys with bacteria and things like this. This was all, of course, didn't happen. But somehow somebody was very hysterical, and that's what it was. So, I remember that when I went upstairs to our house, because I was in the basement, I catch my breath, because I figured out as a kid that, the bacteria, they're going to kill me or something. So I ran upstairs without breathing,
Yeah.
But it was all not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And can we talk a little bit about your father? It seemed like once you left, well, actually, I want to go back. Can you tell me a little bit about when the day that you had to leave your home that you had been in for so long?
Yeah.
What exactly was that day like? Was it a shock? How was that day?
I was actually very happy that we are leaving.
Really?
Because, I figured out if we stay, we'll be bombed. After this experience of the one bomb, I figured there will be more coming. So I'd like to leave as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
However, from one hand, I only have a problem leaving my room. When I was leaving my room, I look on my library. I have a lot of books always, and some of the books have been my beloved books. The most beloved books they have been the ones that have been the most pictures. And there was encyclopedia, I remember, Świat i Życie. It means word and life. This was translation. And I always love it, Every time I was by myself, I open it and look on the pictures, And this was something very painful, to leave this room. But the rest, I didn't care. I just like to run,
And so all these memories, I guess, were gone. So, and those books, did you know at the time that you weren't going to be back at this place for a long time?
I didn't think about anything like this, so I cannot tell you what I knew, what I didn't know. But at this point, the most important thing was to just run away from the bombs, that didn't exist, but still, they could happen. And from one hand, it was, as I say, it was painful for me to leave my books, That was basically. And there was something I remember that one of the maids, I don't remember what it was, that she asked, I was holding in my hand something, and one of the maids come and ask if she can take it, because she will leave. It was, what it was, I don't remember, but it was written there. So I said, take it, take everything, whatever you like,
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't take anything. I couldn't carry books, so I just couldn't. So I just left everything,
Mm-hmm.
But after the war, I think I mentioned this, that one of the maids collected all our pictures, photos, and it was an unbelievable number of them. And they brought us, when we come back to Lodz after all the war, she brought us big box, and I asked, what's in the box? Photos. So we have the most photos possible from anybody that survives the war, because we have everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And when you started to go on this, I guess, travel through these cities, and you had to go through Russian security checkpoints, correct?
Now you're talking.
I'm talking about when you first left Lutz and you had to, I believe, cross the border into the Soviet Union. Is that?
Oh, okay. Now
is that
when
accurate?
let's see, I can take some Poland.
This one, or which one?
Poland will be this one here. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
hold it up and you can just
Yeah.
make a reference.
Okay. Now, see, this is a lodge here. Now, when we left Lodz, we left toward Warsaw. And in Warsaw, we had been just a short time because it was a bomb all the time, so we just left. And from the Warsaw, we go all the way straight towards this border of USSR. This was not Russia, but USSR, the communist Russia, And here we stay in the small town here. We stay here for about a couple of days, But we didn't realize that Russia had agreement with Germany, and they divided Poland in half. So Germans sit here, this part, and the Russia sit this part here. So after we found out that they figured out we are not so happy to be under communism as well, so let's go to the Vilna, because Vilna, meantime, it was part of Lithuania. Somehow they make agreement with Lithuania that they gave this part of Poland to Lithuania, kind of like this part here. So Vilna was in hand of Lithuania, and Lithuania was not communist at that time, was quite a good place. So we went to Vilna, you see. And there we stayed for a while, I went to schools there, etc.
Mm-hmm. And now encountering these USSR soldiers, was that scary, these big guys?
Well, at this time, I tell you what, for me, they look like from some type of strange movies, because they have been not, at that time, they have been not kind of well dressed. In my opinion, they have been dirty, And, and what I have seen kind of line of carts with horses, is never have seen before ambulance pulled by horses, So it was very strange for me to see it. It was just like from a very exotic place, at that time, But they didn't bother us, So, but after we start to go out, then there was a local communist police. They started to bother us, ask for documents, etc., etc. So what happened, because they had been confiscated cars, we have been with a car here, then we decided to disable this car and hire some horses to pull, So that's how we arrived eventually to Vilna. There will be all kinds of problems on the way, but eventually we arrived to Vilna.
Okay. And can we talk a little bit about years? Do you want to? We can push
Sure.
this down. Staying in Vilna, didn't you on your journey up there, didn't you encounter a lot of raids, a lot of air raids going on in town by town that you would stay in, didn't you?
Yeah, of course. Look, if I will start to talk about each raid in each town, we will never finish. No, in particular, there was one place that was unbelievable. It was so terrible. The name I remember was Siedlce. There was a place. And my father and my uncles, they went to look for gasoline because our car was empty tank, But my mother and my sister, we have been in some kind of restaurant, and the house was kind of like a one floor type of wooden shack, And then the Germans come, the planes, and they start to bomb. I mean, it was just, everything was flying in the air, which is unbelievable. Well, we figured out we won't survive this, but we did. But when we went up from this place, everything was ruined around us, And somehow my father and my uncle come back with gasoline too, I don't know, everything was like a miracle, This was the worst place on the way, you're right. But, there have been many places that we have been hiding because the German planes have been kind of going down and machine gun, So we have been hiding, and somehow we survive, So eventually to Vilna, we come in one piece.
Yeah. And what about food? I know it was very scarce, especially milk. What was eating like?
Oh, eating? Well, because we passed right through the agricultural areas, we didn't have much problem to go to Vilna and and eat, until so we didn't have any problem with food.
I know later on you did have some. You ate a dead hen, if I have that correct.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this was later.
Yeah.
This was much later. This was, but even this was not end of the world. but actually, look, I figured out immediately that I should do something about food. Already, I'm talking already being in the Horodische in this under German occupation. So I hire, I didn't hire. I just asked the guy that has 2 horses, and he let me have them. So I plow a nice piece of land. There was nobody there, and seed potatoes. So I had plenty of potatoes. And milk, I don't remember how we got it. We got it by exchange or something like this. But we never had a completely problem. There was 1 year that was a little more difficult, but altogether the food, the hunger was not our problem.
Okay.
And I tell you something else. I got, after I started to work in the woods, I was stealing the woods from Germans and selling to farmers. And they gave me all kinds of food what I asked, So this was another good situation.
I know firewood was very hard to come by, right?
Yeah,
It was very
yeah, firewood, and there was firewood, that's what I was selling, but also building materials, The building materials was prepared for Germans. I very nicely steal it and sold to the other people, and ask for something, in a food, not money. Who needs that? This paper goods, So they give me like head of cheese or something like this. It was good stuff, yeah.
I know starting by the USSR border and throughout your time, I know your dad, your mother, and yourself had to think really quickly on your feet about stories of your past and create these alternate falsicities, I guess, these alternate things that didn't happen, but you had to live through these lies, I guess. How did you think so quick on your feet to save yourself, to make up these stories?
Okay, let me tell you that, as I mentioned from beginning, I went to the Polish school, and I know psychology of Poles very well. My mother, she was super intelligent, and she knew also the psychology of Poles, plus she knew perfect Polish just like me, and she also knew German, that's how she got the job of translator, and that's how she was helped so much in the underground, because she learned all kinds of German news, But so, we have been more prepared than many other people to this situation, let me tell you. It's, I don't know if this is because of our education or just character or whatever, it's things like this. But look, I was in Polish underground, and so is my mother, So, and so it was not just anybody that come and joins the underground. They offer us to join. I didn't say, I was figuring it would be great if they asked me to join. So, but I didn't ask anything. They asked me. They asked me, hey, you'd like to join our underground? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I believe it was a Russian, a Lithuanian, and a Jew came to your house and first talked to your dad. And can you explain that experience? Were you scared? What was going on that day?
Yeah, this was something unbelievable, yeah, because this is cooperation of different people against us, it was very shocking for me to see the combination of these people, If there would be like communist police, they come, because this was something to do with the Soviet system. My father was dealing with things that in our eyes was very legal, but in their eyes was illegal. And and they come to our home just like they are to their own homes. They started to move around just like this, you know. It was, for me, it was very shocking, you know, because I haven't, at that time, I didn't see it anything like this before, you know. There was a power of some kind of, in this case, it was power of communist police, you know. That's what, see, I have all of the experiences. Polish, Russian, communist, Nazis, you know, all together, you know, everything. So for me, it was just terrible. And then, you know, particularly after they took my father, so it was just like empty, something empty was in it, just they took my father, you know. And then at this point, you know, I just kind of felt myself that I should be in charge of everything, you know. I was 15 years old, but I figured out that that's something. And then I don't know if you read this part when my father was taken to the station, because I think that this was something very shocking for me and very drastic idea, you know. I was going to the station to look for him, you know. And how I found it, there have been thousands of people that they grab, you know. By chance, they save them, you know. Because then Germans come a couple days later, and they already have been out, so they couldn't kill them, you know. They've been not only Poles, but Jews, and who knows who. They grabbed so many different people, you know, and send them to Siberia or whatever. And I figured out I should find him. I should bring him drinks and food and just see him, you know. Because I figured out I will never see him again, you know. I didn't know, you know. And this was something so shocking for me at this age. I never seen something like this. You come to this place and all you see, line of trains. Who knows how many lines? I didn't realize that this station is so big, you know. There have been maybe 20 different railroad lines, you know, and trains on top of this. And these trains have been not just nice passenger trains, but kind of commercial type of, they bring goods, you know, kind of lousy trains, you know.
Yeah.
And this was, how did I find it? I don't know. I was just screaming my name of my father. And somehow in one place, somebody heard it, you know, not necessarily my father heard it, but somebody with him together. And that's how I found him, you know, in train. But this was big shocker for me.
How was that, seeing your dad, I guess, in the train, in this box? How was that?
Well, this was, from one hand, I was very happy I've seen him, you know, I've seen, so I can bring the food, and they drop a piece of wire through the small windows like this, you know, and pull out things, you know, what I brought. I brought him, I don't remember what, but something that is not easy to spoil, you know, I figured out. And I bet that he was not the only one that was eating this, but I just brought them. And how was, you know, I don't know, through this window where I've seen him, I didn't see him much change, you know, yet at that time, because this was couple days after they arrested him, you know, so it was still didn't say. Eventually he was in some kind of camp, you know, and I imagined that he was not looking extremely good, you know. But this was after this first time. I come next day, and if you read this book, you know that I had hard time to find him altogether, and eventually I've seen actually his train leaving, you know, and this was maybe most shocking for me, is that I just see him leaving this train, and I feel I never seen him before again, you know. Never seen him. But you know, soon after the train left, the Germans come. I mean, one day later or 2 days later, you know, the Germans come to Vilna. This was in Vilna, you know, and you know, in the first day, we have been resting because they didn't bother anybody, and the Soviet didn't catch anybody because they had been not. So the one day was great, isn't something? The first day they come, they do not. But then next day they started to show what they know to do it. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
And I tell you what was for me most shocking. Not so much the Germans, because I heard about them, but the local population, Lithuanians. At one time, they started to be Nazis. I never knew they are Nazis, because they have been rather communist, all of these things that they have red flags here, they changed to swastikas. Can you figure? And I tell you what was the most shocking what I've seen in the second day of the Germans coming, that I look through the window and I see a bunch of old Jewish people with the birds, it's kind of religious probably, and surrounded by civilian Lithuanians with Lithuanian flags from one hand and gun in the other hand, and just aiming on them, but not shooting at this moment, but just aiming just to making for fun. And I look it up, it's a group, maybe 60 people or something like this, surrounded. And at that time, I didn't realize that actually they going, bringing them to place named Ponari to kill them from no reason, because they've been Jewish, And Lithuanians somehow figure out that's what they should do. I never knew about it because I didn't have anything bad idea about Lithuanians, Who cares? But as soon as Germans come, they started to be Nazis, nationalistic. I don't understand it. I never understand what kind of profits they have from this, but that's what happened.
And I want to talk about when you first heard about, you made mention in your book, 1,000 Jews being killed in Hordysze, Horodyszeze. Do you know what I'm talking about there?
Let me see if I can read it. So I can.
I have some chicken
No
scratch.
problem. No problem. No problem.
It's there.
Horodyszze.
Yes.
Okay, now Horodyszze, this was the place that I was a number of years. Okay, let me go to this from beginning how it happened. Now we had very good Polish friends in Vilna. They have been counts. That's how I was count later, They've been counts. And they come to us after the Germans come a couple days later or 3 days later, and they said that we shouldn't stay in Vilna. We should go and join them. They have been hiding from communists, because they have been counts, aristocrats, so they're fantastic material for communists, to catch them and send them out or kill them. So we should go and join them. They are not very far. Place named Bukishki, a small village, that they are hiding at a farmer, one of the farmers. And with these people, after sometimes, I just make a big jump, they learn that they know a translator of German officer that is dealing with agriculture. And this translator told them that they are in the city of Baranovice, what was the main city there, they're looking for a translator. And maybe that because my mother, they knew that my mother knew German, this could be a good idea for her to apply for this position. Because then, if somebody applies like this, so they won't think Jewish, not Jewish, they will never figure out that Jew will go apply to position with Germans, this kind of big jump, And that's what happens. By the way, they supply my mother with certain documents, kind of in case they will ask for these documents. So they supply with name Dunin already, D-U-N-I-N. And it happened so after some time, I'm jumping many months ahead of that my mother went to this guy that is in charge of this, of hiring translators. And it by itself was very, I don't know, risky, but it was a lot of, how we say, kind of chutzpah, you know. It means that she was very much, that not everybody will do something like this. The Jewish lady comes to the Nazi and asks for job, you know, as a Christian, you know. But she spoke German just like Germans, you know, very, very excellent. And he was so impressed by her, you know, that she said, "Oh, definitely, we like to give you a job," you know. He didn't say the check documents or something, but because he couldn't figure that Jew, somebody will come to Germans, you know. And, so that's how we got to this Horodische, you know, because they gave her a job to be secretary and translator of Mayer. Mayer spoke little German, but not much. But he was Nazi, you know, Belarusian Nazi, you know. So when she comes to him and showed documents that was sent by German high official, you know. So they, you know, this is, you know. So that's how she started to work with this Nazi guy, and that's how he learned later many things that was helping underground, you know, and things like this, you know. It was great because of her I could save so many people, because she told me exactly the dates. She learned when they're going to do something, so I knew how to. So I went then and I tell them ahead of time, you know, and they ran away to woods. And I know about between 18 and 20 that they saved their life, that I saved their life, you know. And I saved also 2 Poles by chance. Do you know how?
How?
Very unusual. Because the Polish underground, the main Polish underground, of course, was in the main city. And they expected to visit of 2 Poles from underground with some kind of good, important instructions, you know. So the Gestapo somehow knew about it, and they went to the mayor of the city and confirmed with him how to do it, because they will come to Horodische, so they will arrest him. So they asked him the police of this small town, to arrest these Polish guys. And my mother was kicked out from the room, you know, because there was Gestapo there, so she went to another room. But the mayor wrote the names of these 2 Poles on a piece of paper, somehow for himself. And somehow after they left, he left this piece of paper on the table, you know. So when they all left, my mother came back to this room, and she had seen this paper with the names, and she wrote down this name for herself, and then she told me about these names. So I went to this underground connections that I have, and they called ahead of time. Somehow they informed them ahead of time, so they didn't come, you know. But the Gestapo did come, and there was nobody to arrest, you know. So these 2 have been sure dead, you know. But 2 of them. But Jewish people I saved at least 18 or maybe 20. And I know exactly how many, because see what happened. This was, they decided to finish the Jewish population. You know, it was not the first time. The first time I was not there when they killed so many of them. But then was left probably something like about 20 or something Jewish people. And they decided, no, there was left maybe like close to 100, you know. But they decided to kill them. And then from my mother, I learned exactly when they tried to do it. So I informed them. How I informed them, this was very risky what I did. And I could be killed like nothing, but I didn't. So how I did it? Actually, I can show you on this. Yeah, give me this one, please. Yeah. This was not, this Gestapo will be later, but here is something that I see, this is the way, we have been living here, this house here. It's okay?
Kind of, it's all good.
Now, here was a water well here, next to the house, you see? And I've seen just day before, they're supposed to kill the Jewish people. I have seen two people around this, two Jewish people here doing something around this water well, not far. So what I did, I didn't hesitate too much. Maybe it was stupid, but I didn't. And then I ran here and I put my head in the water well and start to kind of pretend that I pull water from here. And I was talking to them exactly, told them exactly what happened, and they should run away. They should run away to woods to save their life, because they will kill them tomorrow. And number of them, like 18, I know they've been missing. The police counted. They told, we didn't kill about 18 people here, or 20. Somebody told 20, somebody 18. Somebody probably told them about it. And that's why I know how many people saved, because I heard, I went outside to figure out what they talking, Being in underground, it's very important, So that's how I learned about it. That just by chance, but I could be seen here by somebody, but that's the reason I put my head inside and I talk to them, so nobody have seen that I talk to them. Because I put my head deep in the well here, you see. And they have been on this side, I think so, here. That's what happened, But this I will show you later for different reason. Let me hold it, because maybe I can tell you now.
Okay. The time, I guess they're rushing me on time a little bit, but I have a few more questions that I need to run by. First, I want to talk about your Jewish faith. You have to operate as a Christian. You have to go to church on Sundays. You're not allowed to eat, I guess, kosher foods. I guess Hanukkah, you weren't allowed to celebrate. How did you keep your faith throughout the entire experience?
Well, I transformed completely. For me, it was a matter of life and death. Not some Hanukkah or not Hanukkah. This is something that was secondary. At this point. I was going every Sunday. I was in the church. And from the first few times, I didn't know exactly all of this. How I should behave in church from beginning, but then after a couple of times I figured it out, and I was always in good relation with the priest, The priest loved me, and he does not know who I am, but he knows that I am Paul, And before every holiday we have been going to the different farms around and collected some food. They gave us food, As a priest, so they gave food. And after we come back, he giving me part of it, part of the food too. And I was always with him, in this situation, But let me tell you something, it was very painful to me. Just when this 1944, they started to persecute Poles, the Nazis. And one time I was in the house. I was by myself. My mother was in work, and my sister was some other place. And I have seen that there was the police, Belarusian, and one German come to the plebania, the place that was priest, and they took him. And I've seen him having this prayer book was in his hand, just like this, and walking toward actually our house, this direction, But see, you don't have time, otherwise I can explain how it was. But anyway, so and I haven't seen him after. They kill him, They kill him, yes. So this was terribly painful for me because he was a good friend of mine, I tell you, as a matter of, at that point, the Jewish religion was not a factor for me, I'm even now not so much Jewish religion, but you know, I like my country. I like United States and I like Israel, you know. I was in Israel 3.5 years in military, you know, because I know how important it is, you know.
Another question I have to you, what about people who say that the Holocaust never existed? What do you have to say to people that have that stance? Are you aware that there's people out there that say that the Holocaust never happened? What do you have to say to something like that?
Well, they just plain stupid or something. What can I tell you, you know? I mean, say, let them read the book. Something like that. Well, I don't know if there are many people like this, but there are always some strange people. I don't know, crazy, strange, you know, strange people. Just like World War II didn't happen, you know. It happened, you know. It was terrible. It was how many people? 60 million people died in World War II, you know. But, you know, some people may say it never happened, you know. I mean, this is something that I cannot help, you know. There are always some crazies, you know, things like this, you know.
And my last question to you, can you see something like this happening again in the world today? Do you think it could happen again? And yeah, I want to know if you think something like this.
Well, you know,
caliber.
you see what happened now. It's just same thing in smaller scale, you know. I mean, they cut heads, you know. I mean, this is something we couldn't understand it, you know. But that's how some people are just absolutely strange, you know, in our eyes, you know, and we just cannot understand them. But it happens every day. You open TV every time, you see some line of people, and somebody come with a knife to cut their heads, you know. Don't you think so? This is just unbelievable? Mm-hmm. So you have these things, what happened before, but there was different scale, you know. They use gas chambers, you know, or something. These people use knives, you know. That's different, you know. But I don't see any different, you know, really. They just kill because they are Christians or this or that. They just don't like them, you know, and so they kill them. They didn't let them do some changes, but no, we kill them, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's not you see what's going on. I mean, in our times, you know.
It gets crazy.
It's crazy, but it happens, you know. Listen, this I like to show you what happened with the Gestapo business, because this is something that, in this one, this one here, because this was something fantastic. I am always proud about it, how I fix them, you know. Mm-hmm. Okay, now.
And this will be our last little.
One time, you know, I was here. This is a place that we have been living, and I have seen people. One guy coming from this direction here, with a big hat, you know, kind of tall guy, and then he, surprisingly, he come to my house. You know, he knocks the door. So I asked, "What can I do for you?" So he said. He pulled up things from the letter from here and said, here's a letter from Kajik. Kajik was a guy from underground that he ran away, you know. What? So I figured out, let me see what's in this letter, you know. In this letter was written that I should give to the same man plan of fortification of the city, and how many are of this type of military, how many that type of military. You know, first, you know, I figured the way he come from place of police and Gestapo and whatever. This was the area that was German gendarmes and Belarusian police, and every time they arrested somebody, they brought him here. And this guy come from here. So, you know, immediately I look it up, that I've seen this guy coming from here many times. Mm-hmm. So I figure, this guy is sent by somebody. And also the questions have been so stupid. You know, just like Kajik, my friend, didn't know how many how many gendarmes are in the city or fortifications. He knows just like me because we are in underground, you know. But he tried that I wrote and sent him back with a letter to Kajik, you know, to this guy. So they will, of course, come and kill me and my mother and all of the thing. So I pretended I made kind of like a game with him. Oh, yes, I will write. So what I wrote here on this letter, if I said something maybe it is so ugly, I said, kiss me in the ass. You know, just you know, so, you know, I mean, just to show, if I know the Germans and Gestapo will read it, you know, and we say, oh, this guy that writes something like this, he cannot be in underground with the other guy, you know, kiss me in the ass. It was corrected this.
That's crazy.
But see, because I look it up that this guy, I have seen his face many times coming from here. So I figured out immediately that he is from police or some kind of guy like this, you know.
Yeah, that's
so they have, if they have documents that they collect, they have one document written, kiss me in the ass, you know, so they Gestapo.
That's too funny. And unfortunately, we've ran out of time today, but I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. George Jenin, we thank you very much for everything. And also, make sure to check out his book, Aryan Papers, in stores now.
Yeah. Oh, I should write you down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But let me see.
We'll pack up. They have to film weather now. I wish we could talk all day, and I really would.
Oh,